Have you ever seen those videos of empty malls, abandoned water parks, or parking garages at 3 a.m.? Do they give you goosebumps? You find them fascinating, relaxing, or deeply unsettling? If yes, then you're not alone. There might be some science behind why. I'm a science journalist, and this is our digital channel. First things first, let's define our terms. A liminal space is a place or situation that has an ambiguous identity, somewhere between something and something else. It's a state of transition, a threshold, a waiting room, a doorway. Anywhere where one thing has just ended and another thing hasn't begun yet. The word liminality itself comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold. Think of it as a no man's land between states, places, times, or even identities. The Backrooms, for example, are the hypothetical, infinite labyrinth of carpeted hallways and flickering fluorescent lights that exist in the gaps and spaces in between reality. The very definition of a liminal space. Liminality can also refer to the process of changing from one state or phase to another, like adolescence, or the liminal phase of a relationship that comes right after you start dating someone. Or it could be a liminal time like twilight, the ambiguous period between day and night. But I think we all here because you know what I'm talking about when I say those in-between places that can feel hauntingly familiar. But something about them feels deeply strange, unsettling, or just plain weird. So let's explore why you might find these in-between places so compelling. If you grew up in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, you may remember the internet being a bit different. Websites had lots of blinking text and animated GIFs. It was a wild ride and not exactly user-friendly. But YouTube wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, it was just a blank page with a little bar at the bottom that said loading. We've all been here, but when? Why does it feel so strange? It turns out that our brains love patterns and familiarity. How do we learn? By recognizing patterns. Our brains categorize everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch based on past experiences and file them away in our memory banks. This filing system is called a schema. When new information comes along, our brain compares it to existing schemas to figure out where it fits. It's how we make sense of the world around us. But what happens when a schema doesn't fit? Like a round peg in a square hole. Enter schema dissonance. This cognitive itchiness happens when we encounter something that doesn't quite fit into any of our existing categories or expectations. It creates a sense of uncertainty, confusion, and sometimes unease. A good example of this is Uncanny Valley. You've probably heard of the Uncanny Valley in robotics. It's a phenomenon where humans react negatively to robots or computer-generated characters that look almost human but not quite. But did you know that there's also an uncanny valley for places? In 2018, two French architects and researchers came up with the idea of the uncanny valley of spaces. Places that fall within a certain range of familiarity that triggers negative reactions in people. They found that if a space is too similar to a place you recognize, but it's either empty or has a few key differences, it can create a feeling of uneasiness or revulsion, kind of like how the Backrooms are just slightly off. The carpet is a bit too new. The lighting is a bit too dim. The air is a bit too still. They don't quite look right. They don't quite feel right. They don't quite smell right. They re-stuck in this weird in-between state that makes your skin crawl, or gives you goosebumps, or maybe makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. They have all the makings of a place that should be familiar, but something is wrong and you can't quite put your finger on it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it might be the opposite. I mean, I remember wandering in malls during closing hours when I was in middle school and high school. There was a strange beauty to seeing these bustling places completely empty. It felt kind of thrilling and exciting to be somewhere that was off limits and supposed to be closed to the public. It's almost like trespassing or breaking the rules, like you're supposed to be somewhere else right now. According to some experts, the uncanny valley of spaces could be linked to our survival instincts. After all, emptiness can be a sign of danger. It's possible that our ancestors evolved to be wary of empty spaces because they could indicate the presence of predators. Or perhaps the eeriness of empty spaces activates our fight or flight response because they remind us of environments where we could have easily been ambushed. Some experts also believe that the uncanny valley of spaces taps into our fear of the unknown. Empty spaces can be a blank slate that our minds fill in with all sorts of scary scenarios and possibilities. It's like our brains are trying to make sense of the emptiness, but it ends up creating more questions than answers. Now let's talk about pop culture. We're not the first ones to pick up on these strange in-between places. There's a reason why old horror movies often use empty hallways, dark attics, or dusty basements. These liminal spaces create a sense of dread and suspense. And let's not forget about those old-school scary movies with flickering lights and creaky doors. Those are all examples of liminality gone wrong. Even today, many horror games and stories play on our fears of empty spaces and transitional places. Take the game Silent Hill, for example. The town itself is a liminal space, a place that exists on the edge of reality and sanity. Or the TV show American Horror Story, which often uses abandoned hospitals, haunted houses, and other liminal locations to create a sense of unease and mystery. Some of my favorite modern examples of liminal spaces in pop culture are from the analog horror genre, if you haven't heard of it. It's a style of horror that uses old-school media like VHS tapes and film to create a sense of nostalgia and authenticity. One of my favorites is Local 58 TV. It's a series of short horror films found on VHS tapes that were recorded off the air by an unknown person. The videos were uploaded to YouTube by a user named Alex Penz. He discovered the tapes in his attic and began sharing them online. The show follows the strange happenings of a small town and its residents through grainy footage and low-quality audio, creating a truly eerie and unsettling atmosphere. There's something really powerful about watching these videos and hearing this shaky, distorted audio. It feels like you're watching something that's supposed to be private or forbidden, like you're intruding on someone else's nightmare. But it's not just horror that uses these kinds of spaces. Movies like Inception use liminal spaces to create dreamlike sequences that bend the rules of reality. In video games, liminal spaces are used to create a sense of mystery and exploration. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, for example, takes place in a town that's stuck in a 3-day time loop, creating a sense of disorientation and ambiguity. So why do we love these liminal spaces? Why do they fascinate us? I think it's because they tap into our curiosity about the unknown. They make us wonder what happened here. What's the story behind this place? They give us a chance to explore different realities and possibilities, even if it's just in our imaginations. Besides, it's not every day that you get to see a mall without people around. So yeah, these in-between places can be strange, unsettling, and even scary. But they can also be beautiful, fascinating, and thought-provoking. Maybe it's the endless possibilities that they represent, or the chance to escape the everyday world. Whatever the reason, I think it is safe to say that we are all drawn to liminal spaces in one way or another. Thanks for watching. Did this video give you goosebumps? Are there any liminal spaces that you like to visit virtually? Let us know in the comments below.